So on top of being a very passionate entrepreneur, a lot of people ask me what one of my favorite hobbies is. And I always tell everybody that it actually is flying. I've been a private pilot now for about 5 years, and I share this passion for aviation, and it's been pretty cool overall. I would like to say that I'm passionate for it because it's a freedom-inducing activity. You can basically hop in a plane and go anywhere you would like to go, whenever you would like to go, and the views and everything are super breathtaking. But in order to get there, I had to go through certain certifications, get my pilot license, go through aviation school. And what I realized is that there are a lot of lessons that I've learned from aviation that I apply to business, and I'd actually like to share all of those with you guys today. So let's dive in. So the first lesson I learned early on within my aviation pursuit was actually to trust your instruments. For those of you that don't know, pilots basically fly planes throughout clouds where they don't really have visual reference to the ground. So in essence, you're in the clouds, you can't see anything around you, and you don't know which way's up, which way's down, which way's left, which way's right. And the only way to really know those things is to scan your instruments. So you got this basic 6-pack of instruments between your altimeter, artificial horizon, vertical speed indicator. I'm not going to bore you guys to death, but there's these instruments that you can scan, and by interpreting those instruments, you know exactly what's going on. So you can do a quick scan, look at the instruments, and you know if you're in straight and level flight, you know if you're climbing, you know if you're going down, you know if you're spiraling into a mountain. A lot of times our body actually within aviation plays tricks on us. So I don't know if you know the roller coaster feeling when you're going on a roller coaster and you feel your stomach go up and down. Well, a lot of times that can make our body trick ourselves to where we feel like we're going left when we're actually going right, or we're going up when we're actually going down. And that's actually what a lot of pilots who have passed away in accidents, they haven't trusted their instruments, and they thought that, you know, they were going, you know, to the left when they were actually going right. So they overcorrected and they crashed into a mountain. Actually, one of the Kennedys, that's kind of the story. And within business, it's kind of very similar. In business, you really have to establish your instruments. And in that case, it's your KPIs and the numbers that you're tracking. And you really have to constantly interpret those KPIs and look at them in a black and white format, and don't really go from running your business from the seat of your pants or a gut feeling. A lot of business owners, you know, tend to react just by looking at the bank account, or they'll tend to react by a story that one colleague or team member will give them without going in and interpreting all the instruments. And then making decisions based off of those things can make your business actually spiral out of control. So I think it's very, very, very important to establish those instruments within your business, those quote unquote KPIs, like what revenue is, cost of goods sold, get a good bookkeeper, you know, have certain metrics to measure different things, and always rely on those instruments as you're making business decisions. So that way you're not making a business decision of, you know, going to the left when your business is actually not going to the left. The second thing I've learned is actually in pilot training is simulated engine failures. And literally you're flying nice and dandy, and then your instructor just goes in and cuts your engine, basically puts it to idle. And you know, there's a whole procedure that they teach you of what you have to do when your engine cuts. And obviously your first reaction in a real engine failure, or even in the simulated engine failure, is, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to follow this procedure and I'm freaking out, right? And a lot of times in business, engine failures happen, and there's specific procedures that you have to follow to correct for that. But if you don't follow that procedure, or if you are afraid of the quote unquote engine failure and you don't follow that procedure, you will actually end up probably putting the plane into an abnormal attitude, crashing into the ground, and you will die. If you can push that fear aside and follow the procedure, you will pitch the airplane for the glide speed that the airplane needs to have, and you will be able to successfully land it. Actually, right now, as I'm shooting this video, I'm smiling because behind the camera is one of our cameramen who was in the plane with me when we had rough running engine, and we made the decision to divert to a nearby airport, and we landed perfectly fine. And as we were landing, he woke up and realized that we had engine troubles. So that's kind of a fun story. The third thing that I learned while flying, and especially as I moved up to faster airplanes, is staying ahead of the airplane. So you always want to be one step ahead of the airplane. You never want to be kind of stuck with a huge workload as you're coming in. And the critical phases of flight, the two most critical, are takeoff and specifically landing. And landing typically is very, very critical because you're coming in at a high speed and you have to start slowing down the plane, and there's so much going on. You've got people talking with you. You've got to get the weather. You've got to interpret all this information. And the biggest trick that my instructors have always taught me is try to do everything ahead of time. Get the weather at the nearby airport where you're landing ahead of time. Like, half an hour before you're landing. So then while you're landing the airplane, you don't have to worry about that and you'll have a lot more success. Same thing in business. You always want to stay ahead of your business. You don't want to get yourself trapped into a situation where you're just reacting to the impulses of the business. You always want to be 1 year to 18 months ahead of the business and working on the tasks that you have to accomplish in advance, as opposed to just trying to react to put out fires. Because if you're reacting and putting out fires and you're just being reactive, you're not seeing the bigger picture and you can't steer your business or your ship on the course that it has to go. And the fourth thing that flying has taught me about business is that if you don't take the risk, you don't take the reward. It drives my wife nuts every single time I fly, and I always text her, hey, I'm taking off, hey, I'm landing. And obviously a lot of people are a little scared about flying in aviation. Obviously accidents can happen. But at the end of the day, the breathtaking views and the freedom that you get out of aviation is worth the minimal risk that you take. And as pilots, we always just make decisions to mitigate the risk. Same in business. If you don't take the risk of being uncomfortable and you don't go through it, you won't get the reward of being an entrepreneur and a business owner. So just like those beautiful views that you get above the clouds when you pop up are worth all of the flight training and all of the time that you almost wanted to give up, same thing when your company goes public or when your company sells or when you change the lives of 100 people. All of that, all of those rewards are super, super, super well worth the risk that you take. And obviously just the definition of business is taking risks that nobody else wants to do. You come up with that idea and you take the risk that it's actually going to work, and you're basically betting against the fact that it's not going to work. So I hope you found this video valuable. Aviation's a passion of mine, business is another passion of mine. And when I thought of combining the lessons together and reflecting upon it, I thought it'd be something cool to share. If you like this video and want to hear more, please hit the subscribe button below and that notification bell. My commitment is one video every single week, kind of sharing some parts of my journey. And if you would like, you can also follow me on social media on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all of them. We have all of them. I promise. Just look up It's Alex Duda. Talk to you guys next week.